We are just weeks away from the big Nintendo Switch 2 Direct on April 2nd, and much like an Italian with a block of Parmesan cheese and no self-control, we're grading every last rumor, report, and leak onto our plates until our grandmothers tell us, "Hey, that's enough, what are you doing?" But hey, we won't stop, we can't stop, because this Direct isn't just any Direct. It's Nintendo's biggest showcase in years, and it's going to tell us everything we need to know about the Switch 2. We already know Mario Kart 9 is real. We already know Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is dropping this year as well. But there are still so many questions. What's next for Mario? What kind of third-party games are actually going to be launching on the Switch? What's the price? And when is this thing actually going to come out? Let's break it all down. First, let's get into the games. Now, in terms of games, I do think one of the megaton insights we will get is going to be around Metroid Prime 4. And while yes, we know we have an official title, and yes, we know it's releasing on the Switch 1, and we know it's still coming out this year, there are still questions that arise, like why would Nintendo even bother to reveal more details at the Switch 2 launch? Well, some recent reports from Giant Bomb's Jeff Grubb suggest Metroid Prime 4 is going to be the showcase example of how the Switch 2 can take a Switch 1 game and improve the heck out of it thanks to some DLSS magic. So if and when Nintendo does show Prime 4, expect it to still be coming in a Switch 1 box, but also it's going to be that showcase example on how the Switch 2's DLSS technology can work its magic on previous gen games. And again, Grubb's reporting suggests this will be a day one release for the Switch 1 and Switch 2, similar to how the Breath of the Wild launched day one for the first Switch, both Nintendo's newest console and its previous, but it's probably just going to be in that Switch 1 box with some sticker that says enhanced for Switch 2. Now, moving forward, we know we're going to get Mario Kart 9 at this Direct as well. We've already seen it at the initial reveal of the Switch 2 hardware. And while Metroid Prime 4 is definitely going to appeal to the hardcore gamers, Mario Kart is going to be that mass appeal game. And I think they're going to really show us how this is a lot more than simply another entry in the series. Nintendo's essentially had a 1.5 console lifespan cycle to think about this next entry, since Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is really just a fancy port with some new DLC from its original Wii U release. So what can we expect? Well, we know we're going to get an updated approach to character models and more players on the track, but I'm thinking we get more than just your simple Mario roster. We may see an increased amount of Nintendo characters in this entry as well. Link and the Inklings were just their first step. So maybe we see a lot more characters that you traditionally would only see in Smash Brothers, for example. But besides that, it's really hard to predict what else they may add to this game. I'll tell you what though, one thing I would love is if they did some type of story or campaign mode similar to what we had in Diddy Kong Racing back in Nintendo 64. Now, it is wishful thinking, but it would make a small, once very chubby Italian boy's dream come true. And keeping in the theme of Mario, a name I love, and I am still trying to convince my wife to name our next kid after, and yes, my wife is pregnant again, us Italians are right behind Yoshi's when it comes to dropping mini versions of ourselves. We should also expect an update on the next new 3D Mario entry as well. Now, will it be a day one release? That's hard to say, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's similar to Mario Odyssey's release schedule back in 2017. That being, it acts as a nice early holiday 2025 tentpole event, getting more folks interested in the platform, arriving at a time where even more Switch 2 units are on the shelves, and meeting that high demand that comes with every overly consumeristic American holiday. You gotta love it. But the bigger question is, what will this sequel be? Now, I go back and forth in terms of being a true sequel to Odyssey, but Super Mario Odyssey did sell a lot, and it would rhyme quite well and nicely with that only on Nintendo Switch 2 if they called it Super Mario Odyssey 2. We've seen Nintendo keep branding parity between its newest Mario games and consoles before, Super Mario 64 being an example. So they might try to squeeze that 2 in there somehow. The question is, if they did, what would come before it? I like the idea of an Odyssey 2 again, but I also like the idea of something completely brand new. Either way, we can expect Nintendo to build on everything they have in the past when it comes to 3D Mario platformers and give us something truly fun and exceptional. And then there's Zelda. We've been hearing rumors about Wind Waker and Twilight Princess remasters for years, and if Nintendo wants to fill the Zelda gap while they work on their next major game, this is the time to finally announce them. We may be surprised and see something else though about a brand new 3D Mario Zelda, or a brand new 2D Zelda, or some remakes we just weren't expecting, like Oracle of Seasons and Ages. But I don't believe we're going to see the world of Hyrule from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom again anytime soon. At least, not in terms of a brand new entry. Now, similar to Metroid Prime 4, I wouldn't be surprised if we see something about those amazing titles, and again, how the Switch 2 DLSS technology can work their magic on them and bring them to life with even more consistent frame rate, maybe even higher frame rate, and better resolution. But even with that nice-to-have aspect, I still think Nintendo may be dropping a remaster of Wind Waker or Twilight Princess that will blow our minds. And again, similar to Prime 4, maybe this will be a title that launches both on the Switch 1 and Switch 2, but has that packaging saying, hey, this game is a prime example of how all your games on the Switch 2 could look even better and run even better. Now, I tell you what, I can't wait to revisit Nintendo's version of Wind Waker, again soon. That's one of my favorite games. I think it's a lot of people's favorite games, even though it got a lot of hate at launch. Most people look back at Wind Waker and say, this was truly an exceptional game. Now, we may see some other snippets of first-party games as well. Reports have suggested a new type of Donkey Kong has been in the works for a while by the team behind Super Mario Odyssey. And we also don't know what Monolith Soft has been working on for the Xenoblade Chronicles series moving forward, and we also don't know what's up next for the Splatoon series. But I also want to be surprised if we see some other type of new IP. Something that catches us off guard, something that's new and innovative, or maybe even in ARMS 2. Nintendo doesn't like to leave IPs behind, at least not after one single release. So the potential is high for a surprise, but I do want to move on to third-party titles because I think similar to how we saw a lot of third-party games on that Switch 1 reveal, I think we're going to see the same thing here, and I think Nintendo does realize that as much as first-party games are extremely important to the success of this console, and the main priority, third-party support is going to have an equal level of importance at launch and moving forward. And first up, when it comes to third-party games, Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth on the Switch. Now, a Switch port was already impossible with the original Switch hardware, but now that the Switch 2 is going to be coming out with this enhanced capabilities and DLSS technology, I think they may be working on a dual pack of some sorts to release on the Switch 2. At launch or in that launch window, Square wants to get as many units moved of this game series as possible. They ported it to PC, and I think tying it up nicely with the launch of a Switch 2 will allow a lot of people to get excited about it again, and probably people will double dip. People that played it on PlayStation, I could actually see them playing it on the Switch 2 and buying it as well. So again, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I expect to see those on the Switch 2. And then there's also other great third-party publishers like From Software. Now, they had Dark Souls 1 remastered on the Switch, but we really didn't get anything else from them. So I don't see why we couldn't end up having Dark Souls 2 and 3 jump in on this new system at some point. But I also don't think those are the games that they're going to want to release with initially. I think From Software wants to get out there with its magnus opus of recent proportions, Elden Ring. Considering this game launched on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One as well, this seems like a no-brainer possibility, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's running with relatively low to no compromises on the Switch 2 because of that. Heck, maybe I'll finally beat this game instead of crying in my sleep, because oftentimes with Soulsborne games, I play 1 or 2 a year, then the rest of the year I need to go into recovery mode. Now, what new console launch would also be complete without a new fighting game? And while I truly do believe we will have a new Smash coming at some point in this generation, I don't expect to see it at this point. But I do expect to see some fantastic ports of current high-flying fighters. So don't be surprised if Tekken 8, Mortal Kombat 1, or Street Fighter 6 make an appearance at this Direct. All games that can easily run on the Switch 2, again because they launched on the previous generation of PlayStation and Xbox hardware, and games that are looking for a larger install base due to their inherent esports aspect of competition. Will all 3 show up? That I'm not sure of, but I'd bet decent money one of them comes out on launch day. And while I'm sure we'll see some ports of Ubisoft games and other major third-party publishers, I think the big hitters are going to come from Nintendo's once competitor, but now American ally, Microsoft. We already know Call of Duty will be coming to the Nintendo hardware thanks to those court release documents from a few years ago during the Activision merger hearings, but what version of Call of Duty will it be? Fully featured or half-baked? I'm thinking at least at first fully featured. Microsoft and Nintendo are going to want to show how the Switch 2 can be a place to play for everyone, and if they come out with a souped-up mobile version of the game, well, that's gonna really hurt them from the start. But beyond Call of Duty, I'm also expecting some other major Microsoft hitters, from Fallout 4 to Starfield and even Gears of War. But what I think reports highly suggest is likely is that for the first time ever, our beloved Master Chief will be gracing Nintendo hardware. Now, the Master Chief Collection has been reported as coming to PlayStation 5 and Nintendo's next entry for a bit now, and this would be a shock and awe moment for gamers everywhere. And I tell you what, You can bet your bottom dollar that I'll be picking it up on launch day if these reports are true. In fact, I'll pick up almost every title I mentioned except Starfield. No hate, I already beat it. I don't really want to visit it. And quite honestly, I'm not super crazy about Bethesda RPGs in the first place, but Gears of War, Fallout, a game series I really haven't given a fair shake, sign me up. And hopefully this means whatever the next Smash entry looks like, we'll be getting Master Chief there as well, and maybe even Marcus Phoenix. But, you know, again, a once former chubby Italian boy's wild dreams. Let's hope they come true. Now, switching from games, let's also talk about other new features and reports that have been circulating. There have been a few patents dropped lately, but the ones I think gamers are most excited about is related to Nintendo working on a new GameCube controller. Now, we technically already had one for the Switch 1 Smash players, but this one seems more in line with the controller remakes we saw for the Switch Online service. And if that's true, that means yes, GameCube games could very well be coming to Nintendo Switch Online, and oh my gosh, I can't tell you how excited I am about this idea. Now, if this is true, what games could we see early on? Well, I mean, F-Zero comes to mind, right? F-Zero fans have been clamoring for a new game, and we very well may get it at some point, but I wouldn't be surprised if they keep our appetite wet by dropping GX at launch with this new service. But also, there's a ton of other long-missed IPs that they could bring back here. A Wario World port on the GameCube service, Star Fox Adventures or Star Fox Assault, and so much more. So I'm hoping this is true, and we do get day one drops of some GameCube games, a system, in my opinion, that is very underrated. But keeping with the themes of new features and online capabilities, I'm expecting Nintendo Switch to spend some time talking about how Switch 1 Online and Switch 2 Online will be integrating with each other. Now, we know our accounts will carry over, and to the degree that that user experience differs, I think they're going to want to highlight that, along with hopefully a brand new eShop experience. We all experience a ton of pain and suffering anymore when it comes to browsing that store, and all Nintendo has to tell us is that they've worked on it. We'd all be happy if they just said, hey, new and improved, faster eShop experience. User experience and user interface, that would be great if it changes as well, but if it's just faster and snappier, that would be a huge initial win as well for the Switch 2. And last but not least, features aside, the questions we all want answered, launch date and price. Now, I've seen professional analysts pontificate every day on these questions, and really there's no strong answer. But one piece of evidence that is pretty concrete that we do have is that Nintendo's been shipping units of the Switch 2 into the US since January, upwards of 300,000 units by the end of that month specifically. And we know if that is true, they've continued said operations. So this launch at the very least is soon. Now, will it be June, May, late April? I wouldn't be surprised by any of these answers. But the question I think we all care about most, though, is price. Again, for that question, we've been seeing analysts say anywhere between $400 and $450, which I think $400 or $399 probably is a perfect sweet spot for this console at this launch. But I also wouldn't be surprised if, due to the current geopolitical market shifts from, free trade to fair trade with tariffs going up everywhere, we may see $450 as well. And I have no insight on this either, but I also wouldn't be surprised if pre-orders go live immediately after this direct. So make sure you've signed up for all of the mailing lists out there, because even if supply is high at launch, I expect them to sell out pretty quick. So what are your thoughts? What's the one announcement that would completely sell you on the Switch 2? What games do you think are must-haves for launch? And where do you think I am widely off base in terms of everything I just said? Let me know your thoughts below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more amazing, fantastic Italian delivered news. And remember, if I'm wrong about any of these predictions, my wife has to let me name my new baby Mario, because that's just right. That's how YouTube works, right? I'm pretty sure that was in the terms and services agreement, right? It's gonna be Mario. Baby's gonna be Mario. And as always, happy gaming.